You're standing at the exact point where two continents meet. Europe to your left, Asia to your right, and between them a stretch of water barely half a mile wide that every empire on Earth would kill to control. You can see ships waiting, dozens of them, anchored in lines, sails furled, crews watching the shore. They're not moving, they can't. Not until they pay, not until the city decides to let them through. This is Constantinople. And if you want to move goods between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea, between West and East, between the Christian world and everything beyond it, you go through here. Or you don't go at all. This is the Byzantine Empire at its peak. 10th, 11th century. The city that survived the fall of Rome. The city that held the line against waves of invaders for 800 years. But survival is what makes Constantinople unique. Control is. This city doesn't just exist at a geographic choke point. It monetizes it, weaponizes it, builds an entire economy around the fact that if you're a merchant sailing from Venice to the Silk Road, you have no choice but to stop here and pay taxes and follow rules. And accept that for a few days or weeks, your cargo, your ship, your profit margin, all of it belongs to Byzantine authority. We're going to move through this city the way a foreign merchant would. From the moment your ship enters the Bosporus to the moment you're allowed to leave. And you'll see how Constantinople turned geography into power. How it built systems to extract wealth from every transaction. And how it managed to control two worlds without controlling the territory of either. It's just before dawn. Your ship has been anchored outside the harbor since yesterday afternoon. You're not allowed to enter until a customs official boards and inspects your cargo, so you wait. And while you wait, you watch the other ships. Grain haulers from Egypt, silk merchants from Persia, timber from the Black Sea ports, wine from Greece, furs from the north. Every type of goods that moves through the medieval trade network is represented here, all of them waiting for permission. The official finally arrives in a small boat rowed by 4 men. He climbs aboard without greeting you. He's wearing a silk tunic which tells you he's not low-ranking. He examines your manifest, checks your cargo against what you declared. He's looking for discrepancies, undeclared luxury goods, restricted items, anything that would justify a fine or confiscation. You've been careful, you declared everything, but he still takes his time. This isn't about catching smugglers. It's about control, making sure you understand that entry to Constantinople is a privilege, not a right. He marks your manifest with a seal, tells you that you can proceed to the harbor but your cargo stays on the ship until it's been assessed for the Commercian. That's the commercial tax. 10% of the value of everything you're carrying. You knew this was coming. Every merchant who trades through Constantinople knows, but 10% is significant. On a cargo worth 1,000 gold numismata, that's 100 numismata to the imperial treasury before you've sold a single item. You're moving through the harbor now. It's called the Golden Horn, a natural inlet that curves along the northern edge of the city. The name isn't poetic. It's descriptive. At certain times of day, when the sun hits the water at the right angle, the whole harbor glows gold. But what strikes you isn't the beauty, it's the organization. The harbor is divided into sections. Military galleys to the east, merchant ships in the center, fishing boats to the west. You don't get to choose where you dock. You're assigned a berth based on your cargo and your origin. Venetian merchants have their own quarter, so do the Genoese. The ruse traders from the north have theirs. Everyone is separated, everyone is watched, your ship is secured. The cargo isn't unloaded yet. First, the assessors arrive. 3 of them, they go through everything. They don't just count items, they evaluate quality. A bolt of silk from Persia is worth more than a bolt from a local workshop. A barrel of wine from Cyprus commands a higher tax than one from Thrace. They know the difference. They've been trained to know. The Byzantine tax system isn't crude, it's sophisticated. It distinguishes between grades of goods, origins, even the reputation of the merchant. If you've traded here before and you've been honest, the process goes faster. If you're new, they check everything twice. You're finally allowed off the ship. You step onto the docks and immediately the city hits you. Not just the size, though it's massive. Maybe 400,000 people, some say more. It's the layering. You're standing in a working harbor, but 200 feet above you on the hill there are palaces, monasteries, churches with domes that catch the light. The city rises in tiers, the docks and warehouses at sea level, the commercial districts above that, the residential neighborhoods higher still. And at the top, the imperial district, the great palace, the hippodrome, the center of Byzantine power, visible from everywhere but accessible to almost no one. You're moving into the Mise, the main street that cuts through the city from the harbor to the Forum of Constantine. It's wide. Wider than any street you've seen in other cities, colonnaded on both sides. The columns are marble, some of them ancient, repurposed from Roman buildings. The street is paved, clean relatively. There are public workers whose job is to remove waste, at least from the main routes. This isn't accidental. Constantinople projects order. It wants every visitor to understand that this is not a chaotic frontier city. This is the continuation of Rome, the legitimate heir. The last place where classical civilization still functions. The shops along the Mise are organized by trade, silk merchants in one section, goldsmiths in another, spice dealers, booksellers, icon painters. Each trade has its guild, and the guilds are regulated by the imperial government. You can't just open a shop wherever you want. You apply for a license. You're assigned a location. You pay taxes. You follow quality standards. If you're caught selling substandard goods or cheating customers, the guild can fine you, or the city can shut you down. What surprised me was how much of the city's economy is directly controlled by the state. The silk industry, for example. Silk production is an imperial monopoly. The raw silk comes from worms raised in controlled facilities. The weaving happens in state-run workshops. The finest silk, the stuff dyed with Tyrian purple, is reserved exclusively for the emperor and his court. It's illegal for anyone else to wear it, and it's illegal to export it without imperial permission. Silk is currency, diplomacy, power. The Byzantines understand that controlling luxury goods is as important as controlling territory. You're in the Forum of Constantine now. It's a large open square with a column at the center. The column is over 100 feet tall, made of porphyry, topped with a statue of Constantine dressed as Apollo, or maybe it's Christ. The symbolism is deliberately blurred. This is the heart of the city, not geographically but symbolically. Every major street radiates from here. Every imperial procession passes through, and it's where you realize the scale of what Constantinople is managing, because it's not just trade, it's information. Every merchant who comes through this city brings news, from the Arab caliphates to the south, from the steppe tribes to the north, from Western Europe, from India and China along the Silk Road. Constantinople is the crossroads, and the Byzantine bureaucracy collects that information. They debrief merchants, they track troop movements, they monitor commodity prices in foreign markets. They know when a drought has damaged the grain harvest in Egypt. They know when a new Khan has taken power among the Khazars, and they use that information to adjust policy, to negotiate treaties, to decide when to go to war and when to pay tribute. You're walking through the covered market near the Church of the Holy Apostles. It's mid-morning. The market is dense with people, not just merchants, buyers from every level of society, servants shopping for noble households, monks purchasing candles and incense, soldiers buying provisions. You hear Greek, obviously, but also Latin, Arabic, Armenian, Slavic languages you can't identify. The city is multilingual by necessity. If you want to do business here, you learn Greek. But the city accommodates other languages because it has to. The wealth flows through people who come from everywhere. The Church of the Holy Apostles is behind you now. You didn't go inside. Foreigners can, but it's understood that certain spaces are for the faithful. And in Constantinople, faith and power are inseparable. The Patriarch of Constantinople is second only to the emperor, maybe equal depending on who you ask. The church owns vast amounts of land. Monasteries are economic engines. They produce wine, oil, textiles. They run hospitals and orphanages. They educate scribes and administrators. If the imperial government is the spine of Byzantine power, the church is the nervous system. You're heading toward the walls now. The land walls, the Theodosian walls. They're the reason Constantinople has never fallen to a land siege. 3 layers of fortifications, an outer wall, a middle wall 60 feet high, an inner wall even taller, and between them a dry moat that can be flooded if needed. The walls stretch for 4 miles from the Sea of Marmara to the Golden Horn, and they're maintained constantly. There are crews that repair damage, that replace stones, that test the gates, because everyone in this city knows that the walls are the only reason it still exists. You walk along the base of the wall. It's strange being this close. You can see the layers of construction. Some sections are original, built in the 5th century. Others have been repaired after earthquakes or sieges. The stone is mismatched. Some blocks are Roman marble, others are brick. A few sections use pieces of older monuments, columns, and friezes repurposed into defensive architecture. It's pragmatic. Nothing is wasted. Even the past is a resource. The city has been besieged more than 20 times. Arabs, Bulgars, Rus, Avars, Persians. Every major power in the region has tried at some point. And every time the walls held, not just because they're strong, because the city can supply itself during a siege. Grain stored in massive underground cisterns, water from aqueducts and reservoirs, a population that knows how to ration, a military that knows how to defend. Constantinople doesn't just survive sieges. It outlasts them. You're back near the harbor. Your cargo has finally been assessed. The tax is paid. Now you're allowed to sell, but not directly to customers. You have to go through intermediaries, licensed brokers who connect foreign merchants with local buyers. They take a cut. So does the guild. So does the church if the transaction happens on church land. By the time your goods reach the end buyer, the price has increased by 30 or 40%. Some of that is logistics. Most of it is taxation and fees. But here's the thing. You still make a profit because Constantinople is the market. If you're selling silk or spices or anything valuable, this is where the buyers are. The Byzantine aristocracy, the church. Wealthy merchants who will resell your goods in Western Europe or the Slavic North. You pay the fees because the alternative is not trading at all. And not trading means bankruptcy. You're inside a warehouse now. It's dim, high ceilings, rows of amphorae filled with wine and oil, bales of cloth stacked to the rafters. The air smells like wool and dried fish. This is where your cargo will sit until it's sold. You're not in control of the timeline. The brokers decide when to release goods to market. They manage supply to keep prices stable. If too much grain hits the market at once, prices drop and the imperial treasury loses revenue. So they meter it out. A controlled flow. Everything in Constantinople is about control. You walk back outside. The sun is directly overhead now. The streets are loud. Vendors shouting, animals being driven to slaughter, construction noise from somewhere uphill. The city is constantly building. New churches, new cisterns, new sections of aqueduct. The emperors want Constantinople to be eternal, so they invest in infrastructure, they repair, they expand, they maintain, because if the aqueducts fail, the city dies of thirst. If the granaries empty, it starves. If the walls crumble, it falls. You're near the hippodrome now. You can hear it before you see it. The roar of a crowd. 30,000 people packed into a stadium watching chariot races. The blues versus the greens. It's not just sport, it's politics. The factions represent different social classes, different theological positions, sometimes different imperial candidates. Riots have started here. Emperors have been overthrown because they backed the wrong faction. The hippodrome is where the city's tension gets released or amplified. You don't go inside. Foreigners can, but you're not here for entertainment. You're here to finish your business and leave. Because staying in Constantinople is expensive. Every day you're docked, you pay harbor fees. Every night you sleep in the city, you pay for lodging. The longer you stay, the more the city extracts. But some merchants stay for months. Because Constantinople isn't just a stopover, it's a hub. If you're trading along the Silk Road, you can sell goods here and buy others. Persian silk for European buyers, Flemish wool for Eastern markets. The city is a converter. It takes goods from one economy and translates them into another, and it profits from every translation. You're walking along the sea walls now, the southern edge of the city. The Sea of Marmara stretches out blue and calm. On the opposite shore, maybe 10 miles away, you can see the Asian side, small ports, fishing villages. That's also Byzantine territory technically, but the real power is here, on this peninsula, in this city. And it's not just economic power, it's symbolic. Constantinople is the new Rome, the Christian capital, the city that holds the relics of the true cross, the city where saints are buried. Pilgrims come here not just to trade but to pray, to see the icons, to be blessed by the Patriarch. The spiritual economy is as robust as the commercial one. Churches collect donations. Monasteries offer lodging, priests sell blessings and indulgences. Faith is transactional, not cynically, but practically. The city understands that people will pay for salvation. You're back at your ship. The cargo has been sold. The taxes have been paid. Your manifest is marked with an exit seal. You're free to leave. The whole process took 6 days, longer than you wanted, shorter than it could have been. You've made a profit. Not as much as you hoped, but enough to justify the trip. And you'll come back, because there's no alternative. If you want to trade between Europe and Asia, you come through Constantinople. You follow the rules. You pay the fees. You accept that this city, this narrow strait, controls everything. As your ship moves out of the harbor, you look back. The walls, the domes, the palace on the hill, it's beautiful in a way that's almost intimidating. Not because it's delicate, because it's enduring. This city has been here for 1,000 years. It will be here for centuries more, or so it seems. You don't know that in 400 years the walls will finally fall, that the Ottoman cannons will do what 20 sieges couldn't, that the name will change, that the language will change, that everything you've seen today will become archaeology. Right now, from the deck of your ship, Constantinople looks permanent, unshakable, and maybe that's the real trick. Not controlling 2 worlds, but making everyone believe you always will.